We're live. Okay. Greetings, everyone. I'm not sure, yeah, who's gonna join for this live, but I'm just gonna start talking so folks can watch the replay afterward. Um, and okay, here we are, April 21st, one day after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Um, Lots of things shifting in the collective. As a celestial entrepreneur, I'm always just like, especially as someone whose background is in astrology, yeah, really moved by all these celestial movements and definitely had a lot of things that I thought were going to happen this weekend and they just didn't. Also, we're in a Mercury retrograde period. Originally, today I wanted to host this masterclass. I think I titled it taking our power back from capitalism, big topic. And so I have these thoughts around what, my own ideas and my own like, stuff that's come out of some like deep inquiry around financial sustainability, financial sovereignty, um, especially as artists, especially as ancestral artists. What does it mean for us to take our power back from capitalism, and what is our role right now? Um, on the planet and for a collective, right? Especially those of us whose ancestral healing is so deeply rooted in collaboration and friendship with our inner earth steward ancestors, right? The ancestors who have a mission and purpose to decolonize. They're here for abolition in our lifetime. They're here for ceremonial land back. And what does that mean? And what does it mean for us as artists to charge for our work as artists, and generate income through our artistry, and have people invest in us, and also what does it mean for us to know that our collective will support us, in our financial healing, right? And so that in the places where we're experiencing financial hardship or coming from lineages of, um, you know, poverty and that kind of thing, that we have access, right, to the places that we need in order to grow, in order to build our spiritual gifts, in order to build our creative power. And so just this very complicated conversation, right? About like what does this all mean? Money in context of a dismantling capitalism and those who are like really tasked to be a part of that. Um, and it doesn't mean shutting money out of our lives, right? Because as healers, I know a lot of us, I've heard this for many, many years. We have a lot of blocks around as healers, we shouldn't get money. We shouldn't get paid, right? As artists, as artists who are not just trying to whatever we have these ideas, these narratives about like what it means for someone to try and climb the Hollywood ladder, right, and sell out, right, and what it means for healers to make lots of money, but you're not really engaging in ethics around that, or there's like stuff in there that is just like not in right relationship, and then there's like the rest of us who are like, everything that we do is is like we put so much integrity behind everything that we do, and we're constantly looking at those questions of like, how am I doing this ethically, how am I doing this in you know that can be fed into my values, that can be fed into my desires for dismantling capitalism, right? Instead of pushing money out because we have those narratives of like, as a healer, like I should just like not engage. I should just not engage with money, or I need to push it out in order to dismantle capitalism. It's actually that we need to bring it in. We need to bring money into our energy fields. We need to bring money into our lives, into our bank accounts, so that we can move forward on like powerful strategies, right? Like we need to bring it in so that we can transmute it and put it out into something that we actually believe in, something that will actually heal the planet instead of destroy it. Um, in order to do that, we need to build our tolerance for receiving and generating large amounts of money, right? Taking it out, pulling it out of these industries that are a dead end. They're built on genocide, built on colonization, right? These industries, as artists, we've learned to kind of rely on them, right? We're like, well, if I want to make it as an artist, I have to, you know, I have to rely on government grants, or I have to try and make it in Hollywood. And these are colonial institutions, these are colonial industries, right? But when it comes to like, well, what if I really learned how to harness the true power of my medicine, of my artistry, and I said like, I'm sovereign in it, and I want people to pay me. I want people to pay me, right? Um, that we have a mental block around. A lot of us do, and we're learning kind of to get out of it. So anyway, those are like a lot of the kind of questions that I've been thinking about, and so I think today what I want to do is share one part of the larger conversation that I want to have. So I want to kind of break down like what do I really mean when I say like it's time for us as a collective culture to start investing in each other's medicine. On one hand, what I mean is I want us to start investing. I want us to start building a culture where we feel enthusiastically, instinctually inspired to invest in someone's creative growth, invest in someone's spiritual growth, see someone in their medicine, in their spiritual gifts, and say, I want to invest in you when we feel inspired by them, right? Because we're not there as a collective. Um, we know how to have that instinctual response when it's like, oh, there's a crisis. Okay, I want to give my money to that, or there's an injustice, okay, we can protest. But we don't have those skills yet as a collective, a liberation, a liberation oriented collective. We don't have those collective skills, where we see, oh, this person has medicine that is here to build the world that we want. They're trying to embody it, they're trying to become it. They're not fighting something. They're actually creating something sovereign. I want us to start getting into that mindset because, that trickles down on a very, everyday current level of, okay, so, in June, I'm hosting an ancestral artist retreat and I want everybody to come who is called to be there. And I don't want, um, if someone really, really needs to be there and they know in their heart that they want to be there and they literally are like, well, I don't have the money in my bank account and I don't know how I would find it without hurting myself. Like that thing where in an older paradigm it would be up to the healer, up to the teacher, up to the space holder alone to say, okay, well, how can I make it more accessible for you? Right. And that's still important, to think about those things as a space provider is accessibility, right? But what we risk when we move too much into that paradigm is that one healer, one teacher is trying to fix a collective problem, right? Is trying to like fix something that is actually a collective responsibility to fix, right? Um, because it's actually a really big problem that we as a collective aren't trained to resource each other when we need to study, when we need to learn, when we need to rest, when we need to grieve, when we need to sign up for um, a space that will help us grow, will help us heal, will help us release. It's just like our individual problem to figure out like how we're going to make that work. And if you're in a situation where like all these different, generational, social, economic reasons for why you don't have the money right now, um, that's a collective responsibility to say like we need to be helping each other um, grow. We need to be helping each other out as in our growth as creative people, as artists, as healers, as magically open people. We need to start resourcing the full creative process um, as a collective, because otherwise the burden is on one person that is actually a collective wound. So I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. Um, but today, I have some thoughts where I have some like tangible things that we can do in this moment, but I'm not going to get to that today. What I actually want to get to today is share a little bit more of a contextual conversation about like what do I mean when I say invest in someone's medicine? Um, let me just find my notes around that. Okay. So, in terms of we've come a long way and we still have a long way to go in terms of um, as a culture, knowing the importance of valuing healing enough to reciprocate financially, right? And so we're kind of coming to a place of knowing the cultural wound is that like we so badly need healing, we so badly need art, we so badly need storytellers, but we're so trained to take for granted that it's just going to be available for free, you know, and we never have to pay for it. We never have to make sure that artist is okay. Like an example is just the culture of writers on the internet, like how much free writing people put out on the internet, like on Instagram, on blogs. Um, and it's, I think there's an element of, and certainly I feel like this, there's an element of like some of my writing is just it's open and it's for free and it's for the public. But also like those of us who do that need to be supported, right? Like, our lives need to be supported, like, when we need to grieve, when we go into crisis, when we're struggling, when we get sick, um, and so while we have this sure, yes, put it out there for free, and we want it to be for free even, but then there's no cultural energetic grid in place that says, "Hey, can we check on that writer? Can we make sure that they're okay? Can we collectively do something to organize for people who are creating art for the community?" Um, and so we've kind of been learning to do that a little bit better with healers, right? We've kind of been learning to say, like, if a healer needs to charge for their service or their coaching, like, they need to because this medicine is very valuable. and what you're getting from it is very valuable. And so we want to have that energetic like truth just like in that exchange, like in terms of what I'm charging and what you're investing. So we're getting a little bit better at that, right? Um, so we're learning how to like invest in things like healing, um, when we know we're going to get a result, right? Um, but what is the medicine behind that coaching service, or for my, experience, my astrology readings? It's like, you're getting an astrology reading, but what is the medicine behind that astrology reading, that full-bodied creative process that is actually powering this one offering that I have? So, like I said, we're learning how to reciprocate offerings, and we're building businesses out of offerings, right? But do we know how to reciprocate the medicine, the full-bodied creative process that's behind that one offering? Do we know how to collectively resource that? Okay, so let me give you an example, of what I mean when I say, like, what is someone's medicine? In order to build these communities, like, first we need to understand, like, what the heck is medicine and how do you recognize it in one another, right? And you can't do that unless you're invested in healing yourself, right? Because the more and more you heal yourself, the more and more you go deeper into that place where you get to know who you really are and you get to know your medicine. And when you can recognize that in yourself, you can recognize it in other people. Um, and so I wanted to give you this example about, like, let me just like break it down in another way. Um, let's, for this energetic thought experiment, let's tune into a time and place, whether it's somewhere in the past or underneath or within time, somewhere in quantum time. There is a place where we know how to live in community with one another, and everyone is supported, loved, cherished. And it's a beautiful, well functioning ecosystem. The entirety of the land is cared for, all of nature. It's true ceremonial living. In these communities, we'll say, like, okay, a community of like that is our end game, right? If we're trying to dismantle capitalism, something like that is our end game, right? Maybe money doesn't exist there. But even in a community like that, our need to recognize each other for our medicine doesn't go away, and reciprocate each other for our medicine doesn't go away tangibly, as if it were money, right? So in these communities, everyone sits in reverence to everybody's medicine. This unique, wondrous thing, this energy that people carry and that they are, and what they bring of themselves to collective life today and every day. And what that is, it shifts, it grows, it dismantles, it rebirths, it lives a full life. It is as complicated as we are as human beings. Our medicine is not just one thing. It's not just a modality, right? Okay. How do you recognize someone's medicine? My background is in queer performance art and ritual ceremonial theater. Okay. So say you're in the audience and you're watching an amazing queer trans person perform on stage, and the mountain that they had to go through, um, in order to just like feel present in their body and find movement. And maybe they were really supported to dig deep and find their personal storytelling, not just their storytelling, but the way their ancestors wanted to tell stories, the way they moved. And when they're on stage for like 5 minutes, they share what they have to say in the way that they can say it, right? And they move in a way that is so unique to their body, it cannot be replicated. And it's the way that they string words together, like, nobody talks like that. It's their erotic sovereign expression. For those of us, we can think about times we've seen someone on stage and it's just, like, so uniquely them, right? And it's not just who they are generically, it's who they are in that moment. It is them in collaboration with that specific moment in time, in relationship to everything that's going on in the collective, in relationship to how the earth is expressing herself today. I'm responding to that as a storyteller, right? What is it today that you have inside of you that you cannot keep inside of you any longer? And you have to share it. You have to let it go. And that's what you put on stage for those 5 minutes. A whole world exists in 5 minutes. A whole world has lived and died in those 5 minutes. And it's complete and it's finished. And the audience applauds. And it's everything that it needed to be in that moment, even if there were mistakes, even if it wasn't what you planned, but you showed up, you were there, and you lived it out. That's medicine. You look at 5 minutes of how someone poured their heart, their soul, their truth into a poem, and it's complete. It's a whole world, or a dance piece, or a painting. It's a masterpiece, and it's imperfect, and it's excellent, and it's exactly what this world needed at this exact time. It's a beautiful expression of life. And you didn't do it alone. You co-created it with your ancestors, with the universe, with the land you're on, with the future and past versions of you, with alternate timelines. Medicine is you, and it's also you in co-creation all the time. So I don't know how to describe medicine in this way. It's your way, you know? When some people are like, you got a way about you. It's your ancestral artist's way. It can't be defined in a sentence. And also, it can. Because your medicine can also be recognized in the simplicity of its magic. And shout out to my teacher, Dr. G. Love, because she really embodies the medicine of simplicity as I've learned it. But how would you define in a sentence the medicine of a story you wrote? I wrote a play in 2016, 2017 called Letters to the Universe. It's a magical life story of a brown superhero and her search for the secret of magic. That's the tagline. That's my medicine, boiled down into a sentence. And so when you're able to boil down your medicine into a sentence, which is a skill of producers and artists, right? It's like, how am I going to advertise this play? It's creating an offering in your sacred business and like taglining it. So there is a sentence that encapsulates it. But how people feel when they see your medicine boiled down like that, it makes you feel like, wow, like what is that? Like something in just the sentence unlocked something in me, and I want to know more. I want to sit with it. I want to be there. I want to experience the story. And then we can zoom out even further and say, like, when a story is fully realized, it's developed, it's completed, it's like a TV show that's been on for multiple seasons, and there's millions of people who can talk about it and analyze it and talk about the themes and what it brought up in them. And there's books and books and books about, trying to figure out what is this medicine. So, this main story that I work with, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, in my in my work in Otherworldly Giants, is a perfect example, right? There's tons of podcasts. There's anthologies about like Buffy and feminism, Buffy and spirituality, Buffy and mystic, like all these different philosophical topics. People have created university courses. There's like fan fiction galore out there, and people have like published books, of their own, sovereign from the series. but like, utilizing characters or the world building for 20 years. People can go on and on and on about like what is the medicine of this story? How do you define what this story is and what it brings out in us? It goes on and on forever, right? So when I say like, what is your medicine? It's a 5-minute dance piece. It's a poem that fits onto a page. It's a play that was on stage for a week, but in multi-dimensional time, that play was also a whole life. And it can be boiled down into a sentence, and it's also never ending. So when I say, as a collective, how do we learn to invest in people's medicine and have the audacity and advocacy to ask our collective to invest in our collective medicine? We know how to jump in, organize, and fundraise in a crisis. We have a lot of skills around that in activist community. We're getting better at paying healers for one-on-one private attention. Do we know how to see people in their full-bodied expression of their medicine? Do we know how to recognize where they are in the creative process and say, well, do we know how to recognize where we are in our creative process and say, you know what? This is where I'm at and I need support. I don't want to have to rely on genocidal institutions to support this part of the process, which is me just like sitting down with my thousands of pages of notes and just going through it and sitting with it and giving it time to come into form that eventually will be a script. When we go into Hollywood, we call that part of the process we're out of a job. And that's one thing that makes that industry so fucking grueling. When I was in high school, I did musical theater, in our high school musical theater shows. And I remember, we'd go through the whole process, right? Of like rehearsal, and then we put it on stage and it's out there and then it's over. And I remember, I'd play these amazing characters on stage. And then after the show was over, I would get so depressed. I would get so depressed. I would feel such immense grief because something that, it's really, it's jarring. It's shocking to the system to have something in your life that like every day you're going into rehearsal, every day you're showing up, every day you have like this spirit in your body and you're living that character out. And then when that whole story is over, suddenly it's just over and it's just gone. It is a really like deep and legitimate grief, and when we're like, okay, my option in this industry as an artist is to put everything into, well, never mind, people put everything into their work, into their craft. Who knows if they'll ever get a job? Who knows if they'll ever get a gig? And if they do, then they live it out and then it's over and they're out of work. What we need is to support the entire process. What we need is community. We're not going to expect Hollywood to do that for us. We need community to respect the entire creative process. Because the answer isn't, well, I should always have, a TV show to work on, or I was always should have like a place where I'm in that like really intense, creative like outpour. No, because after a big show like that, you have to grieve. You want time. It is a little bit like, for me personally, it feels like, I lived a whole life with an animal companion, and then after they left, I need time. A lot of us, need time before we bring another animal into our lives. We need to grieve, right? It's similar, right? Like after we leave a whole life behind, we need to grieve it. Like we need that all the time in every circumstance. And we need our grief to be supported. We need a community around us to say, "Hey, I see you in your grief. You're not out of a job. This is part of the process. Community is supporting you." So this is, this is where we're at, right? We need to learn how to honor people's medicine and their entire creative process and not just the part where we're getting a product or service. And we're starting to do that, maybe like Patreon, Kickstarter, like all those things, right? But still, I see people on Patreon, I see people like in those kind of grids, and it's still such this like hustle, like, oh my God, I feel like I have to keep my community, constantly um, happy, like I always have to be delivering some kind of service or product to earn that kind of support. Um, but that's not quite it. That's not quite it's not there yet. Right? We need more. We need more. Um, and especially when it comes to medicine that we carry as artists, that is specifically, our medicine is in co-creation with our abolitionist, decolonizing ancestors. Our ancestors are who are here to dismantle capitalism, and not just to dismantle it, but to take our power back. And so this is where I'm saying, right? It's like long-term picture is that in valuing our medicine more, we are building our capacity to um, divest more and more and more and more out of these capitalist industries and put it into our medicine that will truly that is the answer to healing the world. I know a lot of people, everyone and their dog has an opinion about how we dismantle capitalism and how we get there. But I'm no exception. I have an opinion. I have a strong opinion about that. And I really believe that like our ancestors, it's not just our ancestors. It's not like they have the answer. It's not like they have the answer and they're like hiding it from us and we have to like find it. No, it's that they're here to co-create it with us. They're here to invent it with us. They're here to figure it out with us, and we can't do that if we're not investing in them. We can't do that if we're not investing in our own healing. We can't do that if we're not, like, investing in all the skill it takes to understand how to communicate with your ancestors, how to be in relationship, how to set up sacred space, how to go through this whole entire journey that is heartbreaking and challenging and so rewarding. There are those of us who are like on this path and because we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We are here and we have to live it out. And some of us are drowning. I see that. Some of us are just like uh maybe I should quit. Maybe nobody wants what I have to offer. Maybe maybe it's not important. Maybe I should go get a real job. And all of those are lies because actually what I see is this huge density of energy collapsing on us who are holding this directive in our cellular celestial DNA to not just fight against the world we don't want, but to literally become it. They're the answer. They're the way out. When we connect with them, we're inspired to really create from a place of our visions of earth stewardship that we all have. We all have that. We just have to go deep enough to find it. And they don't just inspire us we create it together. We create it together. So, I don't know, those are my initial thoughts. Um, this is my medicine. This is like my messy medicine because I had a plan to like share a much more like thoroughly what do you call it? Organized masterclass, and there are other topics that we didn't get to, right? So I'm like, okay, this is the big picture, right? This is the problem kind of I'm seeing, right? And so what I also wanted to talk about is like small things every day. What can we do today? And also I wanted to, offer that for people who want to join the retreat that I'm hosting, but who are stressed out about money, you know. Um Yeah. So I want to share another conversation about that, but that'll be another day. Today, I guess I just wanted to talk about the medicine. I just wanted to talk about the medicine, and I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Point being, we don't know how to do that very well yet, and we need to make that shift for long term and also for short term so that we can access the spaces that we need now and we can get paid what we need now and we can start generating more wealth amongst us, um, for this purpose. Right now, we can start doing that in small ways. We don't win without us. That's what I'll end with. All right. Peace. See you next time.